Commissioner Andrew Colvin.
The agency will receive an additional $2 billion over the next 2 years to coordinate the recovery effort.
Andrew is already at work and chairing an interdepartmental committee across every single government department in the Commonwealth. What we are focusing on here is the human cost and the rebuilding cost for people's lives.
Today's announcement comes after the call-up of 3,000 ADF reservists over the weekend, along with deployment of further Navy assets and firebombing resources. But despite all the welcome news, the PM's still facing fierce criticism for not acting sooner. Like in April, when a group of 23 former emergency leaders pleaded for a meeting to discuss the link between climate change and our increasingly catastrophic weather events, a meeting that never took place.
We predicted a crisis like this. We hoped it wouldn't happen. We'd like to sit down with the leader of this country and come up with practical solutions, but that isn't happening, hasn't happened.
Or in December, when Morrison ruled out bringing forward the COAG meeting scheduled for March in order to better coordinate a national response.
That's how you run good government. You don't do it in a panicked, knee-jerk political mode.
Don't worry about the bloody idiots down the line, just you deal with it.
So will today's recovery plan be enough to restore faith in the government's handling of the crisis?
Australian Financial Review political editor Philip Curry joins us now from Parliament House. And Phil, $2 billion, that's a lot of money. Do we actually know how it's going to be divvied up?
Not precisely, because there's not going to be too many limitations on it, according to the PM today. It'll be just about be used for everything from, helping businesses, helping people who've lost their homes, even helping restore animal populations, and just about whatever else you can think of. So it will be compartmentalised into various bits and pieces, but importantly, the Prime Minister also said it's only, a down payment, and if more is needed, there'll be more.
Scott Morrison's copped a lot of flack over his handling of things, being away in Hawaii and not really showing that empathy or that leadership. Will this, do you think, restore some confidence in people?
Look, too early to tell, Pete. I mean, he's been completely pasted, as is the government, for their lack of preparedness. They haven't taken this seriously in the run-up to this. They've ignored the warnings. They've refused to meet people like Greg Mullins. It was interesting. He said, I'm not meeting Greg Mullins because he's no longer in the job. Yet yesterday he had a chat to Prime Minister John Howard how to handle the political situation. He's no longer in the job either. So sort of might give you an indication on priorities there. But look, I think ultimately he'll be judged, then the government will be judged on the totality of the response. If they mess up this phase, the recovery and the compensation and so forth, then they'll be in big trouble. But it's still unfolding. We're sort of talking as if it's over, and now we're in the recovery phase. It's far from over, and it could get a lot worse in terms of the fires for the next 6 weeks or so. So I think the PM's definitely lost some paint for his ill-preparedness over this, but it's a long way to the next election. We'll just see how it pans out. But
it's Chris Barth on the ground in Winslow here. Can I just ask you, you're here on the ground, we're seeing a lot of anger, Phil, on various fronts, over so many things. It varies from the loss of habitat and wildlife to the loss of homes to the loss of lives, for the lack of preparedness for this. Do you think the government's been wrong-footed on this? Do you think they've been caught by surprise about the level of anger in the community?
Look, I think so, and I think they've been caught by surprise at the ferocity of the fires too. You see how quickly they jumped into gear when suddenly it became apparent how serious this was. People are really angry and they want to be angry at someone, and the government, is a fairly big target. It's not just that, Chris. It's not because they're just the government, but it's because they didn't heed these warnings, or that we've seen stories about fighter bombers, being offered but being knocked back, expert advice ignored, and of course their approach to climate change. It's just a real dragging the chain approach. Only a couple of weeks ago, the Deputy Prime Minister, who today stood up with a solemn look on his face and vowed to rebuild everything, was calling everyone a left-wing lunatic who was linking the fires to the to climate change. So they've actually sort of made themselves a pretty big target on this, and really, at the end of the day, who cares about politics when this is going on? But that will be an evolving story.
Well, on exactly that, Phil, I mean, you're the political editor of the AFR, but you were caught up in this yourself. You've got a property in the area. You went there to check on it. You had a first-hand account in the AFR today about your experience. Give us a little summary of it. Oh,
look, very quickly, Pete, we've got a little bolt hole down on the south coast. We always go down for the Christmas holidays. We got caught up in the New Year's Eve stuff. It wasn't a lot of fun. Got out in the evacuation, got everyone out. We made it out easy because we left early. Somewhat foolishly, according to my wife, I went back, but that was just to really get the house fireproofed. And I had 24 hours to sort of think about whether I was going to stay or not. Our place was fairly safe. Our only problem was ember attack. In the end, on balance, I waited up and I decided to go home. But whilst I was down there, I experienced, the difficulties of getting petrol, and the lack of traffic management and the lack of basic coordination on the ground that could have easily been done had they had the army there or the 2 levels of government better organised. There's some real big flaws.
Yep. All right. Thanks very much for that, Phil. Appreciate your time.
Pleasure.